All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today at our session for partners called Capturing the Market Moment with Azure VMware Solution. If you're on the wrong airplane and that's not the city you're going to, you might want to exit now before we close the doors. All right, so I'm happy to be here today. I'm Sue Hartford. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing in the Azure Infrastructure Group. My team focuses on some of those big, gnarly, strategic enterprise workloads that customers are trying to migrate to Azure, one of those being VMware. I'm thrilled to be here today with my partner in crime, Lisa James. She is the Director of our Partner Strategy for Azure Infrastructure. And we also are going to be joined today by a partner, Rob Phillips from Presidio. So the way we're going to break this down today is I'm going to kind of give you the overview of our product value and some of the offers and programs I'll introduce that we've shared with our customers. Lisa's going to come up and really get into what we have to help partners, and then Rob's going to come up here and talk about his experience with all of that. So let's kick off just talking about this market opportunity. I think all of you are clearly familiar with the fact that VMware customers are, kind of actively making some decisions right now about what they want to do with their environment. But when you think about the sheer size of this, we're talking about more than 2 decades of customers deploying their on-premises workloads in data centers on VMware. And that has equated to something like 85 million VMs in the world today running on VMware. Now, interestingly enough, Microsoft's been along on that journey, and we estimate that another workload that you were probably, if you were helping these customers deploy on VMware, that you will commonly find on those environments is Windows Server and SQL Server. About 75% of our on-prem Windows Server, SQL Server base, we estimate, is running on a VMware host out in that world. So you'll see how this really aligns with some of those priorities that we as Microsoft have been talking to all of you about when it comes to migration. Now, when you think about helping a customer who's on the left side of this slide, they have a lot of existing VMware environment. They have existing VMware skill sets, and they have a lot of existing VMware licenses. And how do you help that customer move to the right and get to those cloud benefits? These are the cloud benefits that we're all, you've probably been helping other customers migrate to Azure in the past. IT agility, business agility, global scale and elasticity, increased security and resiliency. And then, that's just getting that up and running. But really, once you're in Azure, now you have access to all of the extra goodness to start innovating around data and AI, and for your developers, everything a developer could want, right? So we're really talking about how do you help a customer get to that platform in Azure and bring them to a platform that will serve all of their needs for the next several decades, right? And that's this big transition that we're going to. The bottom of the slide really talks about some of the migration triggers when we see customers wanting to move. Data center exit is a very common one. I need to get out of my data center now. I've got a mandate. Or, hey, we want to be cloud first. We want to move these workloads. It's not always as easy as you might hope, right? If it was, everybody would just do that really quickly and fast, and everybody would be running in PaaS and IaaS, and we'd be all done. But these workloads have dependencies. Some of them are really tricky workloads, and it takes some refactoring, and maybe they've got security protocols and things where you've got to go work with the security team, or if the app needs refactoring, you got to go work at the app team. That slows everything down, slows that migration down. And then, of course, we've got the new trigger now where customers are having licensing concerns and trying to figure out what to do. Sure, I'd love to get to the cloud. Tell me how to do that. So here's the journey that we're finding works best for a lot of our customers. We are actually having them start their journey by considering moving to Azure VMware Solution. Now, this brings them several benefits. The first of which is addressing that immediate concern they have around licensing. Especially customers that were not using the full VMware stack of everything that's in VCF, they're seeing some major price increases, and they're worried about that. They've got IT budgets. What am I going to take away from to cover this over the next few years? And so what we are encouraging customers to do is to think about using our reserved instances as a way to get price protection for 1, 3, and even 5 years. We've introduced a 5-year RI to help these customers, which really just buys them some time to think about, what I need to modernize. It doesn't have to be an emergency for everything. So it gets some of that predictable pricing right away. Now, once you move into Azure with Azure VMware Solution, you've got time to modernize in your terms and think about all those other Azure services that can help. You can work with your customers to help get them onto a path to the future. And ultimately, the way I like to think of this is, if you're going to help your customer make this shift to something new, it's time to put them on a path for a platform where you can help that customer meet their needs for the coming decades. So with Azure VMware Solution, you get the fastest migration option. And this is really why this is a great first step to Azure, because you are literally moving those VMware workloads as is. Very little or no refactoring required. You also are putting it onto some familiar, consistent VMware technology, which actually is the stack that these workloads have been running on-prem. It's now running in Azure as a managed service by Microsoft. And so you and your customers continue to leverage some of that VMware expertise that you've developed. And then, as I said, this is fully managed by Microsoft. And so we actually take on a lot of the work of that kind of basic infrastructure management that adds value right away. So this is what it looks like. On the left, this is the full VMware stack running on premises today. If you look at Azure VMware Solution in our cloud, it has all the same, vCenter, vSphere, NSX, vSAN, all the technology you need. And it actually comes with the technology, the HCX technology that customers commonly use to migrate workloads. So it's right there in Azure. And we bring that over, and now once you've finished the migration, you have access to all the other goodness in Azure, and these are very commonly used, right? So once you get up and running in AVS, you've got access to, using Azure management services like Azure Monitor, all of the security services we have. You can extend to other types of storage, either Azure first party or some of our partner options. And so we've really built a nice set of options that you can adjust to the workload needs of your customer. Now, this is currently running in 33 regions around the globe. And I love this slide because it really shows how Microsoft, taking this on as a first-party Microsoft managed service, we take all of this technology that either you or your customers are currently spending time operating, that happens now by Microsoft. And so it really frees up resources to go and focus on running the things on the top of the stack. What are those applications? How do you want to modernize those? Do you want to add some data and AI or other types of modernization that Azure can offer you? And I think this is an exciting partner opportunity to really bundle up some of this value and talk to customers about options to bring them more business value. So we actually asked Forrester to go out and interview about 5 of our customers, and they did these in-depth interviews and said, just moving to Azure VMware Solution, does that have a good ROI for our customers? And what we found is that on average, they were finding almost a 300% return on investment. One of the big ones is just saving on hardware refreshes and the time that it takes. So over 3 years, they were saving on average $5 million. And they were getting a payback on their investment of less than 6 months. So you can go search this up if you just want to put in Azure VMware Solution Forrester TEI study. We've got all of this online. And it kind of talks about the different costs that they took into consideration for this. So this is pretty great because I hear that question often is, hey, really, this is VMware, but it's running in the cloud. do I get benefits on day one? And customers really do see these benefits. So we know that migration, and this is a big project, even if it's the fastest way because you're taking a VMware environment and you're moving your workloads to a VMware environment in Azure. So we've introduced a lot of new offers and options and resources to help all of you bring your customers on this journey. And again, as I said, I think what's amazing about this is that this is a journey that not only helps them in the near term, but it really does set them up for success on a cloud platform in the future. So let's start with the first column. We bundled all this. We call it the VMware Rapid Migration Plan. It should have everything you need. And we start with that very important price protection. So again, we have 1, 3, and 5-year RIs. We introduced the 5-year RI this year. That's great. You might have a customer who says, listen, I've got something I've built on VMware. I am never going to refactor that. Like, it would be impossible to either pull it apart or, hey, I don't even want to touch it, right? Let's just put that in place. Becomes kind of an insurance policy, right? Thanks to Microsoft, like we are giving them a price that's locked in for 5 years. That offer is currently good through the end of the fiscal year, so June 30th. Now, for the customer that wants to move fast, we also offered a new discount on our 1-year reserved instance. So we have got a 20% discount in place for that today globally as well. Now, some customers might say, well, wait a minute, I don't know what I'm doing in 2 years with this workload. Am I locked in? Well, the good news is that our reserved instances can actually be exchanged for other types of reservations for any Azure compute. So that is flexibility that you can use as you work with your customer over time to figure out like what other things they might need to be doing with their workloads in Azure. Okay, let's move to the second column. So as I said at the beginning, there's a lot of Windows Server and SQL Server running on these VMware environments. So as you're helping them move, we have some great pricing available with Windows Server and SQL Server through the Azure Hybrid Benefit. So that applies just like it would in an IaaS VM. It applies to Azure VMware Solution. You also get free extended security updates for older versions like 2012. So these are offerings that are available across Azure, and it really creates the most competitive Windows Server, SQL Server pricing available on any cloud. Now we also have support for the VMware Cloud Foundation subscription portability. So let's talk about those VMware licenses. If a customer has already renewed and they now have a portable VCF license, they can go ahead and bring those onto Azure VMware Solution. We have new SKUs available where you are just paying for the infrastructure piece of those SKUs. So you'll find those on our pricing pages. We also continue to sell an option with those subscriptions included. So if you'd prefer to do your purchasing straight from Microsoft rather than renewing with Broadcom, you can do that. And so we've got that flexibility for you. Okay, the third column. So now we're getting into migration assistance. It's not free, right? All of you are going to have to pay your staff to help do all of this migration. So we have the Azure Migration and Modernization Program that has a lot of funding programs, and Lisa's going to go into that shortly. But we also have a lot of amazing resources. In terms of just migration guidance, architectures. So you'll find a lot of that in the Azure. We've kind of renamed all of this into the Azure Essentials program. You might have seen that this week at the conference. The really important thing there is some of the amazing documentation that we've done around landing zones, well-architected frameworks, guidance around networking options. We have worked this out and we've documented it all, so please take advantage of those resources that are available online for you. And we also have spun up the CSU Migration Factory. So our CSU team has experts who are available to work with you and your partners to actually do the migration. So check that out as well. All right, and finally, one final offer that we've introduced this year is for any new reserved instance for Azure VMware Solution, you can get Azure credits. So depending on the size of that migration, you can get up to $120,000 that can be applied to any Azure service. So that's just kind of a nice extra incentive on the top. All right, so that's a great plan, has kind of everything in it, and I'm going to invite Lisa on stage now to go a little bit deeper on some of the partner programs and offers.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Sue did a great job talking through the significant market opportunity with Azure VMware Solution. I'm happy to be here talking with all of you today. Again, my name is Lisa James. I am a director of Azure Infrastructure Partner Strategy at Microsoft. And I'd like to share with all of you now how Microsoft is investing in your success as a VMware Solution partner. So there really are 4 pillars of investment for partners: skilling, differentiation, go-to-market, and offerings. For skilling, we're focused on empowering your teams with dedicated partner skilling options for cloud and AI. A great example of this is we actually just recorded the AVS Bootcamp last week. So you'll be able to consume that content soon online, and maybe some of you in the room attended that last week. In terms of differentiation, we want to work with you to have you earn specializations and designations to differentiate your business. A great example of that is when we talk with customers, they are looking for highly qualified partners to do the work for AVS migrations. And specializations are also a door opener to some of our offers that we have in market, like Azure Migrate and Modernize, as an example. For go-to-market, we want to help you scale your go-to-market with resources that are aligned to Azure solution plays. We're going to go into a little bit more detail on this with the Campaign in a Box. That's a great example of one of the go-to-market resources that we have in market. For offerings, we're going to do a deep dive a little bit later in the session on Azure Migrate and Modernize. That's our hero motion for Azure VMware Solution. So I'll be happy to share that with you as well. So let's go into some of the go-to-market options for you as an AVS partner. The first one is the AVS Campaign in a Box. This will help you drive demand for Azure VMware Solution with your customers. And you might be wondering, what is a Campaign in a Box? So a Campaign in a Box is ready to launch customizable campaigns that you can use. It has approved Microsoft value propositions, messaging, and branding. And it's aligned to Microsoft's priority solution areas and industries. It's available to all Microsoft AI Cloud partners. You do not have to have a specialization to start using these great assets for AVS. And Microsoft invests a significant amount of dollars and resources so that partners can go to market quicker with these assets. And it will help you drive top-of-funnel leads for your pipeline. I did want to emphasize that we just updated our AVS Campaign in a Box. So if you already have been using it, you should check out the new assets that we have activated. And there really are 3 activities that the Campaign in a Box helps with: build awareness, acquiring leads, and nurturing opportunities. From a build awareness standpoint, we have really nice assets like demand gen email sequences, social assets and ads that you can post, infographics, thought leadership items. From an acquiring lead standpoint, we have a gated ebook that you can share with customers. And then from a nurturing standpoint, we have 2 customer pitch decks that you can actually customize with your logo and partner name. So I encourage you to check that out if you're not already using the Campaign in a Box assets. There's another go-to-market option called Partner Marketing as a Service. It essentially helps you build an AVS marketing campaign. You get to work with a top-tier marketing agency working on advisory, content, and execution services, and it's free or highly subsidized. The marketing service packages come in 4 options. Package 1 is go-to-market strategy and content development. Package 2 is customer intelligence and prospect identification. Package 3 is social media campaign and social content development. And then package 4, you have a choice of one of these options, either account-based marketing campaign content, or joint webinar support, or in-person event support. And all of the packages to the left are included in the one that you select. So it's additive, essentially. The package 3 and 4 run 13K to 15K to 30K. And you can pay with that with co-op funds. So just wanted to point that out as well. Another important go-to-market option that some of you may already be using is the AVS Express TCO analysis. This estimates the total cost of ownership for migrating your digital estate to Azure for both AVS and rehosting. It provides a snapshot of VMware infrastructure, including right-sizing, end-of-support operating systems, and storage usage. And it also allows you to learn how much can be gained on carbon reduction goals while lowering operating costs, increasing efficiency, and scaling as needed. There's a really nice example of the executive summary, the AVS TCO savings that you can see on the right, where we show the analysis period is 3 years. There's 918 servers that were looked at. The cost savings is $7.6 million. The cost reduction is 76%. The effort saved is 4 months, and the CO2 reduction is 97%. And in the table on the lower left, you have TCO estimates for things like compute, storage, networking, and data center costs. Azure Innovate and Migrate and Modernize help you implement efficiently with comprehensive resources in one place. You can increase your agility with extensive coverage across scenarios and customer segments, and innovate confidently with tailored incentives to maximize earning opportunities. It really is a one-stop shop to help your customers achieve their cloud goals for new or existing deployments. We've seen tremendous growth with more than 10,000 projects delivered and even more in the pipeline. This is why we'll continue to double down on these investments. So Azure Innovate, just to go into a little more detail with you, is open to specialized partners that are associated with the workloads that are in Azure Innovate. It helps partners infuse AI into solutions, advance analytics capabilities, and help to build custom cloud-native applications. Azure Migrate and Modernize, which is where Azure VMware Solution, or AVS, falls in terms of benefits, helps partners securely and efficiently move existing workloads to Azure while delivering enhanced application and data experiences. And then Azure Essentials is new. We help partners elevate reliability, security, and ongoing performance of cloud and AI investments with extensive guidance, resources, and tooling. A good example of what is included in Azure Essentials are items that you might be familiar with, like CAF, the Cloud Adoption Framework, or WAF, the Well-Architected Framework. And then we also include landing zone guidance as part of Azure Essentials. Let's dive into our offerings that are part of Azure Migrate and Modernize specific to AVS. So we have 2 routes you can go, partner-led or field-led. So on the left side of the slide for partner-led, the project sizes are estimated to be 10K to 500K in ACR in year 1. And the funding goes up to 50K depending on the t-shirt size that you nominate for AVS. It does include a direct to-partner payment. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from our partners that they appreciate the agility of this program and offer. And then this is open to AVS specialized partners and Azure Expert MSP partners. On the field-led side, the project sizes get larger. They start at 100K and go up to 2.5 million in ACR. The funding for the partner is up to 500K in this scenario for these larger size projects. It does give you access to some additional benefits like solution assessment and Azure credit offers that can be brought to the table. And it's open to specialized partners and ESIF eligible partners. ESIF stands for End Customer Investment Fund, if you haven't heard that term before. And so those are the things that give you access to the field-led side. I wanted to point out another offering that we have in market. This is the Azure VMware Solution 30-day pilot for partner-led projects. This is key. You might have heard of it referred to as a POC as well, or proof of concept. This allows you as a partner to grow AVS projects by giving customers and partners the opportunity to try AVS free with 3 nodes for 30 days. And following the pilot, the trial SKU converts over to a paid SKU automatically. The qualified partners for the POC option here are AVS Specialized Partners again and Azure Expert MSPs. The process is that the partner or the customer requests this pilot via a support form. And if the request is made by the customer, the PDM or Partner Development Manager will bring the lead forward to the selected partner. Cloud Migration Factory is another offering that we have in market. And this is something that Sue mentioned earlier. And this really gives you a chance as a partner to leverage migration services through Migration Factory to improve your margins and accelerate projects. So I definitely encourage you to look into Cloud Migration Factory. It allows you as a partner to focus on transformative workloads. CSU Migration Factory takes care of the common rehost execution so you can accelerate projects and build customer confidence. It also allows you to realize higher margins with less risk, augment delivery with Microsoft-funded capacity, and drive more Azure consumption with guided implementation. I did want to point out, too, that it's really a great partner opportunity for partners to use us in a white-labeled delivery model where you can cover all governance, architecture design, POC, networking, and we can focus on the actual hands-on migration. It doesn't have any ROI requirements and can be expanded to all segments with no minimums or maximums for the projects. And partners can use us to jumpstart AVS migration with CMF and expand the size of the deal. We have learned something as we've looked at Cloud Migration Factory and AVS migrations. We're seeing 60% faster migration projects, about 8 to 15% in cost savings, resulting in better deal economics for you and better bottom line as a partner, and about 3 to 4 weeks of time savings. So I encourage you to check out Cloud Migration Factory. Now, this is a really great slide with 3 steps for the partner opportunity for AVS and how to take action. So step 1, what we're recommending is that you start with a health check conversation with all customers about their VMware environment. One of the insights that Sue mentioned earlier is mentioning that they can lock in VMware pricing right now with up to 5 years using the 5-year RI through June 30th of 2025. So this is a great option as step 1 to talk about being able to lock in pricing. And those RI discounts, as Sue mentioned, can be transferred to other forms of Azure compute. Step 2 would be assess. Help your customers assess the business impact of a migration to AVS with a TCO analysis. And this is supported by our Microsoft Solution Assessment Desk. And there's a managed account process where you would work with the field if you're working with a managed account. And then step 3, create a compelling migration proposal and offer. So you can bring customer offers into the table like ACO, MAC and MCA benefits, hybrid benefits and ESUs. And then the specialized partner benefits that you can also bring in are things like Azure Migrate and Modernize and the Migration Factory. So I encourage you to check this slide out after our session and look at the key steps that you can take to move AVS migrations forward. Now what I'd like to do is introduce Rob Phillips, Sales Director for Presidio. He's going to be joining us on stage and talking about his experience as an AVS partner, so we're very excited to have him here today. Rob Phillips is a Senior Director at Presidio, a global systems innovation firm. He leads a team of Microsoft digital sales specialists nationally, driving innovation and modernization. He's a certified cloud specialist in Microsoft Azure. With over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, Robert has held various leadership positions in sales, consulting, and engineering. He's passionate about helping businesses improve their processes through technology. And with that, I'd like to welcome Rob up to the stage, and Sue's also going to be returning and joining us. Thanks,
Lisa,
Rob.
thank you.
Great. Welcome back, Sue.
Thanks.
So we're going to start off with some questions, Rob, for you.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what is the business opportunity for partners in VMware and AVS as customers are working through the Broadcom VMware changes?
It's massive. So when Broadcom started rolling this out, I'd say probably 6 months ago, we had many customers reach out to us, and quite frankly, they were anxious, scared. They weren't sure what was going to happen. They were trying to navigate a lot of internal things that were going on within Broadcom. There was new license models. They're moving people to subscription. The account teams were changing constantly, and in some cases, people lost their account teams as well. So again, it made them very anxious. They were looking for options, really starting to look at their virtualization and what they might have for different options. And what we saw is they really had 3, maybe 4 options. They could stay as they are, and a lot of them were seeing their ELAs renew at like 3 to 4 times the cost of what they had done previously. So that really wasn't a good option. The second step was, they could look at a native migration. But I think we all know if we've looked at that, that's usually a long, tedious process. The 7, 8 Rs, whatever that is now, takes quite a bit of time to do. So the third option was looking at AVS, and Azure VMware solution was by far like the fastest way to get a customer to the cloud quickly, mitigate any kind of risk that they had, almost 0 downtime we've seen with most of our customers. So it was really a good option for them, and really got the conversation sparked for us as a partner. And then there's some other third-party solutions like Nutanix and things like that, but that's quite a project too to take on, if you've never done something like that. So.
All right. So yeah, you kind of mentioned, this, how you kind of compare the move to Azure VMware Solution versus IaaS. How do you talk to customers about that choice?
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically, we want to know everything there is to know about our customers' needs. So it's a great lead-in to kind of dig into their environments. How fast do they need to move? That the speed is the telltale sign a lot. But what are some of their requirements that they have? What are some of their challenges that they're facing today? Even as we start looking into the environments, maybe they run a lot of SQL, and maybe AVS isn't the right solution. Maybe it's looking to go to SQL as a service or something like that. So it's really just kind of understanding the customer's environments, having a conversation. You provided the Azure Express assessment up there. We do that a lot. We also have a custom one that we've created with VMware that actually adds an additional step of doing a native migration as well. So we'll compare on-prem cost, AVS cost, and native cost, so the customer can really see the difference between the 3.
Awesome, great.
That's great. Thanks, Rob. How does this turn into a partner opportunity beyond migration?
That's great. Yeah, and frankly, every partner kind of struggles with this. It's really easy to have the migration conversation with a customer. What's difficult is, what does that phase 2 look like? Or when is the right time to start talking to them about a modernization conversation? So I think AVS is great. It buys them some time. We don't like to lock people. I think you said it well. Like, we don't like to lock them into that 5-year price lock. While it seems great, it really shuts the door on any kind of modernization conversation that we'd have. So typically, we push for the 1 or the 3 year, and we try to run some assessments and workshops and things like that that starts them thinking down the road of how do we modernize some of these apps. So.
Okay. Do you have maybe a customer story you could share that brings this to life for us?
Yeah. So we have, it's a public case study, so I can mention their name. The Washington, D.C. Metro Transport Authority, big transportation authority, runs all the train systems in D.C. Microsoft and Presidio worked together, I think it was November actually of last year, I believe, it might have been 2 years ago. Came to us and said, we have to move 9 of the most critical apps that they have to the cloud, to the Azure cloud. It was all VMware based. They had to do it quickly. They basically wanted it done in 180 days, which traditionally, if you do migrations, that's not a lot of time. So we rolled up our sleeves together with Microsoft. I think we actually formally kicked the project off in January, and we had the entire environment migrated over by the end of March. So essentially, we did it in 90 days. Great win story, great case study from Microsoft and Presidio. Like I said, minimal to no downtime whatsoever, very little risk to them as a customer. And these were, like I said, if this went down, like the president wasn't getting to the White House, via the train. So super critical apps. Yeah, it was a great success story. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got this down to a science.
Yeah, and now we're talking to them about phase 2 and phase 3, just like we spoke, like what's the next step? Our engineering team, who's in the audience here and at our booth, as they did the migration, they were noticing things like, hey, this app is, on an old version of SQL or something like that. There's a really good opportunity here to pick this low-hanging fruit off.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Just what you're learning about your customer and what those future modernization opportunities might
Yep.
be. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, great. I have another question. What advice would you have for a partner just getting started with their AVS business?
So the advanced specializations is key. I think all the things that you showed up here, most partners have the ability to do. Solution assessments are free. They're a great value to the customer. It kind of gets that door open. It builds that migration runbook, that document that a lot of customers need to see the path. You mentioned the funding. I think, make sure that you can do partner-led funding. You have the requirements met so that you can do that. It's a really easy entry point. It's easy money. It's a quick turnaround. I think sometimes 48 hours or less, we can get those projects funded. POC or proof of values are easy way to get going on these as well. And then obviously work with your Microsoft counterparts. The field-led is, for those much larger projects that you can do. We've actually gone a little bit extra mile, and we've created what we call rapid migration offerings, similar to what you did, the T-shirt sizes. So we kind of partner with you, and let's say it's a small or medium-sized customer. We know we have an offering that we can do. The customer gets the price. They know what those waves are going to look like, and it's really easy. So.
Okay. Are there some steps that you would sort of break that down to? I mean, if you were just real simple, when you're engaging with that customer, if I'm a new partner, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, the advanced specialization is the first step,
Okay.
And that takes some time if you haven't done it. Obviously, you need the VMware skills. Prior to doing that, you need some customer cases that you can use for the audit and things like that. Start building some campaigns. You can use your co-op and your marketing money to do workshops. We do a lot of workshops with customers, webinars, things like that, just to kind of get the message out and get the traction that you need.
Okay, awesome. Oh, how about that one?
Oh yeah, this is a good question. How are customers that have moved to Azure VMware Solution leveraging Azure to do more in the cloud?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And you touched on some of the services. Obviously, I mean, those are the obvious ones, right? It's getting them closer to the services, the microservices that they can use. Such as we have customers that we're in the retail space, being closer to a monitoring agent or a service in Azure they could use to try to find inefficiencies and things like that, or one case. Identity is a big one, getting closer to Entra and using that single source of truth and identity management, things like that. So, yep. And obviously containers and microservices, those are quite easy once you're in the cloud.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for answering all of these questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thanks for
been
having me.
great.
Thank you for making it real for everyone.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Okay, to wrap, we have a few more slides. Hang in there. So in terms of taking action, we wanted to summarize some of what you've learned today in Get Ready, Creating Demand and Growing Your Business. So we provided some great links here. First, in the Get Ready category, get started and differentiate yourself through the Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program. We've got a great landing page there for you. Build technical and sales skills. We have a partner training landing page that you can go to. And then unlocking those Azure specialization offers by getting the AVS specialization. We provided a link for that. And then in terms of creating demand, you can go to a partner go-to-market resources landing page. And for growing your business, we have a link to the Azure partner-led offerings so that you can learn more about those. If you enjoyed the session that you just attended on AVS, we have a lot of other great recommended partner sessions for you to attend. The first one is on analytics, BRK210, help your customers' AI transformation with unified analytics. We also have one focused on SAP, transform your customer SAP estate by unlocking AI innovation. We have another migration session that we're recommending, how AI is transforming the migration economic opportunity for partners, and another AI session called Build and Modernize AI Apps on Azure and Delight Your Customers. And then we have a GitHub session, Maximize Developer Efficiency with GitHub Copilot for Partner Success. I would encourage all of you to check out these sessions if you haven't had a chance. And then I would like to close by thanking you for your partnership with Microsoft. There really is a significant opportunity with Azure VMware Solution and AVS in this market moment that we've talked about. It is the fastest, most familiar path to the cloud. And so we look forward to supporting your growth as an AVS partner, and just wanted to again thank you for your partnership. Thanks.